around, we see a lot of things. These things may be living or dead or maybe non-living. A cat, a dog, a tamarind tree, a coconut tree, a lotus plant, an earthworm, a bird sitting on the tree. These are all living organisms. We have various characteristics that prove to the world that we are living. On the other hand, we have non-living things. What are these non-living things? Soil, rock, air, water, brick, sand. All these are non-living things. Then you have the dead. Living things, when they die, you have dead things. Let's say wooden furniture in your house. Once upon a time, the wooden furniture had been a part of a living body. After the living body, it breathed its last or it was dead. We used that material, the body, we cut it to size, we brought it to shape and made furniture. Furniture or a wooden box, a piece of cork, or a brush that we use to paint. These are all non-living things. Once upon a time, they were part of a living being. Thus, everything around us is either living or non-living, or maybe dead. So we divide, in a simple way to tell, we divide all these things into living and non-living. How do we decide a thing is living? It has certain characteristics that tell the world that it is living. Any non-living body, if you go on dividing it into units, smaller parts, a chalk piece, you cut it further, make it into powder. Ultimately, what you get would be the smallest particle of chalk piece, what we call as molecule. We call it as the structural unit of chalk piece. It is a structural unit. The ultimate unit we get, beyond which we may not be able to divide it further. In the case of living organisms, living bodies, we have the ultimate structural unit, the cell. Now our body is composed of billions, not even millions, billions and billions of cells. You cannot see the cells by naked eye. They are very, very small. If you look at your skin, you may not be able to see them. They are very small, very, very small. They are tiny. You need a microscope to see them. For example, we have the onion peel under the microscope here. I have a picture of it. You tear the onion, you get the leaves, again break it and tear, you get that film, onion, thin film-like cellular layer. We keep it in the microscope and see it. You can make it out here. This is how you see. Each structural unit is called a cell. This is one cell, this is another cell, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. There will be billions of cells in an onion plant. In the onion that you eat, you have billions of cells in layers. They are well spread out in layers. And each cell is a structural component, a unit. It is managed by a nucleus. You see the dark nucleus at the center. It controls all the activities of the cell. The cell is covered by a cell wall. In the case of plants, a cell is covered by, it is enclosed by a cell wall. In the case of animals, cell wall is not there. Cells are covered by cell membrane. These cell walls are tough. That's why plants have a sturdy body. A mango tree or a tamarind tree, it will have a sturdy body because the cells have got strengthened by cellulose. Okay, let us know this much. All living beings are made up of cells. Cells are the structural units of any living being. So in the case of a plant, if you ask, where is life? Where has it its soul? Its soul is distributed in all the cells of that living organism. Each cell is a structural unit controlled by a nucleus. Each cell is living. Okay, now we will just discuss the characteristics of living beings. Scientists, studying these things in detail, have made a list of various characteristics of living beings. Usually, if I ask any child, how do you decide that a stone is not living, but a dog is living? The answer we would get would be, dog runs, dog moves. Dog won't be in one place. It walks around. Whereas a rock won't. The rock or that stone will lie where it is unless you move it. Yes, it is an important characteristic of all living beings. Living beings move, especially the animals. Plants, we may feel they do not move, they are stuck to a place, but it is not so. They too move. Plants too move. If you look at the coconut trees around a house, you see all the coconut trees would have bent towards the house because they get plenty of sunlight there. They need not compete with other plants. On the river side, if you look at the coconut plants, how are they? All the coconut plants would have bent, would have grown towards the river because the area above the river, the direct area, upright, that is almost vacant, empty. There are no plants. So these coconut plants, without competing with any other plant, they can have enough of sunlight, they can prepare their food, they need lot of sunlight, they don't want to compete with other plants as such, and they will have a free growth. It's proved now. Coconut plants too can move to that area where sunlight is available in plenty. Even the garden plants, you see, they try to move towards light. All plants move. They may not move as active as an animal, but they move by growing towards sunlight. But why don't they move around? They don't need that at all. Because these trees have a large body, they have to stay in one place. They cannot carry that body and move. All what they require is water from the ground and minerals which are dissolved in the water. Otherwise, Plants prepare their own food in the sunlight. Like animals, they need not move from place to place in search of food. They need not hunt. If we want to grow paddy or wheat, we have to run about. We have to be very active. We have to get the entire field plowed, then sow, look after the plants, water them, harvest them. We cannot stay in one place and lead a life. There's a big difference between plants and animals. Plants are autotrophs. Autotrophs. You know what is auto? Self. They prepare food themselves. Autotrophs. Autotrophic. They need not move around. But animals are not autotrophs. They are heterotrophs. They depend on other plants and animals for their food. If they are herbivores, they go after grass and plants. If they are animals, they have to hunt and get their food. If they are carnivores, they hunt around, get their food. So animals or plants all move. It's not just animals that move. And small plants which are microscopic. I have the example of Euglena here. This is the model of Euglena. These are tiny animalcules. They are very small. You cannot see by naked eye. They live in fresh water. See, this is a single cell structure. It's one cell. They are very small, I said. They have only one cell. That's why they are very tiny. And they have a nucleus. They have all the components of the cell. Added to that, they have green pigment too. You see the green pigment here, which in the presence of sunlight can prepare food. But they don't stay in one place. They have a long flagellum, a whip-like thing, a flagellum. They beat their flagellum. A Euglena beats its flagellum and it moves about in water. It goes towards those areas where sunlight is available because it prepares its food on its own. It needs sunlight. And this tiny animalcule prepares its own food. It moves. It's not stationary like other plants. Other plants, grown-up plants, we said, they move where they are. They move where they are. The twigs, the branches, leaves, their growth, all these take place towards the sunlight, we said. But this is a tiny animalcule, a plant, which moves in water from one place to another in search of sunlight and prepares its own food. So it's a clear signal that these animalcules, they move from place to place. It's a plant. Why do we call it a plant? Because it prepares its own food. It doesn't feed on other animalcules or any other substance as such. It prepares its own food, drawing carbon dioxide from water around, and with the help of the green pigment there, it prepares its own food. Then other animalcules are there. Very small animal, amoeba you call. Amoeba moves. Amoeba moves with the help of its pseudopodium. They are called as false feet. False feet. With the help of the false feet, it moves from place to place. It has a nucleus. It feeds on other animalcules. This is not a plant, this is an animal. A one-celled animal. A bacterium cell. Bacteria, they move. We have another unicellular organism, paramecium. Paramecium is also called as slipper animalcule. It looks like a slipper, very tiny. You need microscope to see. And it has cilia all around. See the cilia. They are thin fiber-like flagella all around. They are plenty in number. It pushes its body forward by swaying its flagella in water. The body pushes forward. It's paramecium. All animals and plants, let's come to the conclusion, they all move. The phenomenon is called as locomotion. Locomotion. They are all capable of moving. Non-living things, they cannot move. A stone, a rock. In case a stone rolls down a mountain, there must have been some force which must have pushed it. Or if a paper sheet goes on floating in the air, you can't say, oh, it's living. Why? It's been airlifted. Air has made it move. It has not moved on its own. Okay, we will come to the next. We have discussed that too. Cells. They are all made up of cells. Whether they are plants or animals, all living beings, they are made up of cells. And each cell has a nucleus at the center, and the nucleus controls all the activities of the cell. If the animal or plant is made up of one cell, you call it as unicellular. If the body is composed of many cells, as in the case of our body, human body, you call it as a multicellular animal. We have billions and trillions of cells in our body. Billions and trillions of cells. All these cells, they function together, they are together, they have given a form to the body, and the body functions on its own. Okay, point number 3, we have discussed locomotion, they all move. Second one, we said they are made up of cells, they have a cellular structure. Point number 3, they all grow. They grow. Animals and plants, they grow. You sow a seed, the seed germinates. There will be a radical and a plumule. A radical grows into the shoot system. A plumule grows into the shoot system. The radical grows into the root system. And it grows into a plant ultimately. Even animals as such, the tiny, newly born animal, if you observe day by day, it grows into a larger animal. It becomes an adult. We have the example given here of the plants. A plant, a seedling. Here, the seed is there. The seed is germinating. It germinates. Seed coat comes out. The cotyledons are there. And the seed has grown here. The shoot system comes out of the soil. The cotyledons, they spread on either sides. You will have the bud coming out. Leaves appear. The root system grows underneath the soil, helping the plant absorb water. And as days pass on, it becomes absolutely independent and grows into a plant. In the case of animals, we know here, we have a lion. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 cubs. The lion has given birth to 4 cubs. It looks after the cubs. It feeds them. It feeds them. It trains them in hunting. It makes them quite able to face the struggle of life. Lions are carnivores. They feed on the flesh of other animals. So all living beings reproduce and they grow. Here, these cubs grow into adults in a span of about 1.5, 2 years. There onwards, they are capable of hunting on their own. But usually, lions as such, they hunt in prides. They hunt in prides in a group. Okay. The fourth is the lifespan. Each and every plant as well as animal has its own life span. A butterfly may live for 2 to 3 days. A cat may live for about 10 years. The dog may live up to 13 to 15 years. A cow may go up to 20 years. When it comes to human beings, it may be about 80 years, around 80 years, say 70 to 90 years. If it's the tortoise, let's say 150 to 200 years. That's the longest lifespan. But death is certain. No animal or plant can live forever without death. Some of the banyan trees, ficus trees, people trees, they grow even up to 300 to 400 to 500 years. Plants which had been sown during the Mughal period, they are still intact in North India. 300, 400, 500 years. They are plants, they are stationary, they grow well, spread out well, and they have the longest lifespan. So, all animals and plants, they have a scheduled lifespan. They cannot live forever. They reproduce, that we discussed. Animals reproduce by either laying eggs or giving birth to young ones. Plants, mostly they give rise to seeds, and these seeds, when they get spread out or sown, they grow into new plants. And there are non-flowering plants too, which produce spores, and these spores grow into new plants. Plants may even propagate vegetatively. Branches of the plant may get broken, fall down, and those branches, twigs, they grow into new plants. But all plants and animals, they reproduce. In higher animals and higher plants, you have sexual reproduction, and in some of the lower organisms you have asexual reproduction too, by way of production of spores. Then plants respond to stimulus. If you pinch your friend, he will immediately turn at you and ask, what's the matter? As you speak to somebody, you see facial expressions being put up by the other person. He responds to what you speak. All animals respond. Hold the tail of a cat and slowly try to pull. It will turn around and threaten you. Show a piece of bread to the dog. It will start wagging its tail immediately. It will ask for that. All animals respond to the stimulus, and it's very obvious. In the case of plants, do they respond? Yes, all plants respond to the stimulus on their own. They have their own method. We have the Mimosa plant here. One of the examples we can take here is the Mimosa plant. It is also called as touch me not. In Kannada, it is called Muttidare Muni. In the coastal area, they call it as Nachike Mullu. Here, if you touch the leaves of the plant, they immediately close down. Very quick response. I have pulled out the plant in the morning, I have brought it here. But if you just search for this plant outside, usually children, you find them playing with them. If you just touch them, quite interesting, they close. You see here, I touch these leaves. See, it closes. See, it closed. See, I touch the entire twig. They are all closed down and droop immediately. Not only closing, they droop down. The entire twig droops down. See? Quite interesting here at the point where the twig is stuck to the stem, there itself the turgor pressure will differ and ultimately the twig will droop down. See how it droops down. So this is an example for a plant that shows active response to the stimulus. Now if I leave it like this and come after 10 minutes, it would again come to the previous position. Now we have the Brahmi here, the Brahmi plant. It's a well-known Ayurvedic herb. In this case, I want to tell you about phototropism. This plant I had kept in a place where there was shadow. Shade was there. Enough sunlight was not there. And all the plants what I had grown here, I had planted some 2-3 saplings and the pot got filled up with that. All these individual plants, they have grown in this direction because the sunlight was available from that direction. And you see poor growth here, poor growth of the plants. Here they have long pedicel and there is a competition for the sunlight and they all are showing themselves towards the sun. In the afternoons it was not getting any sunlight. In the morning that 2-3 hours for that sunlight, there is so much of competition and with long stalks they try to spread themselves out and get as much sunlight as possible. It's a case of phototropism, growing towards light. It is on one side, it's a case of movement. On the other side, it is response to the stimulus. It responds. In the case of animals, their response is very clear. And all the plants and animals, they need food. They cannot grow without food. As I told you earlier, plants prepare food on their own. They take water from the ground, they absorb water from the ground. They take in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and then the chlorophyll pigment in the leaf or the leaves, they absorb the solar energy and prepare food on their own. That's why we call them as autotrophs. They prepare their food on their own. That's why most of the plants are all green in color. The chlorophyll pigment is green in color. That's the reason why leaves are green in color. In case you keep a plant in a shady place, you find the leaves become ultra green. Thick green they become. Because sunlight is less, they try to put up more factories where food can be produced. So chlorophyll pigment will be produced more and more because the food that is produced is not enough for the plant. It wants to prepare more food. So more chlorophyll, the plants turn dark green. When plants turn dark green, it's a clear signal that the plant needs more sunlight. If there's too much of sunlight, the leaves start becoming pale. there will be little greenery. It doesn't try to put up more factories now. So plants prepare food on their own. But animals, they are either herbivores, they feed on other plants, or they are carnivores, they feed on other animals. Or they may be having food habits wherein they may be eating plants on one side, on the other side they may be taking in animal food too. And some animals are scavengers. Dead animals, they feed on dead animals. For example, crow. Crow eats almost everything. Even if there is a dead rat, it pecks and eats the dead rat. It is a scavenger. Hyena is a scavenger. Some of the animal species are scavengers. They eat on dead fish. So it depends. Now, let us just discuss the various characteristics of animals and plants, living beings, with the help of the chart here. Here you have the chart. All these have been put up together. See, cells in an onion peeling. All plants and animals are made up of cells, billions of cells. Each cell is controlled by a nucleus. Each cell is a living cell. Each cell contributes to the altogether living of that animal or plant. They all cooperate with each other. Together these billions of cells make a living being. Coming to the second, all plants, animals respire. We human beings respire with the help of our lungs. We take in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. Oxygen is required for our life. Otherwise we don't survive. Even for more than half a minute we will not be able to sustain without oxygen. In the case of plants, they have stomata or small openings on the underside of the leaves. They are called as stomata. Through these tiny stomata, these leaves breathe. They take in oxygen again and give out carbon dioxide. Plants will be preparing food. Then they require carbon dioxide. But at night times, food preparation activity will not be going on. Plant too will be taking rest. At that time, it breathes just as we breathe. That's why we say, don't sleep under a tree in the night. Don't think you get fresh air and sleep under a giant tree. The giant tree too will be giving out carbon dioxide. But it's healthy to sleep under a tree during the daytime. You can take rest under a well-grown tree. You get fresh air, plenty of oxygen you get. So, plants, they breathe through stomata. These stomata are innumerable in number. Under a leaf, there will be plenty of stomata. Then all plants and animals, they grow. Plants grow from a seedling. In the case of animals, it starts from egg, the embryo. The embryo, once it's hatched, it will start growing up. Or in the case of mammals, young ones are given birth to by the mother, and the young ones, the babies, grow. Then all living things move. Here we are given an example of a snake. It wriggles about and moves in the desert sand. Then we have the mimosa here, mimosa plant. This is before you touch. I'm about to touch now. I have touched. The moment I touch, the formation changes. The leaves all fold themselves, and It's a very clear signal from the plant world that they too respond to stimulus. Usually their response we will not be able to make out much, but here in this case we have a very clear picture, a clear proof that plants do respond to our stimulus. They do respond to our stimulus. Then here, this sportswoman, she is perspiring. You can see sweat drops on her face, droplets. She must have done a lot of exercise over the last half an hour or 1 hour. She is sweating. Now, perspiration, it's a form of excretion. All animals and plants, they do excrete. Waste products from our body, we throw them out. In our body, urea gets produced. Urea is a poisonous substance. We cannot store it inside our body. It has to be thrown out. How do we throw it out? We throw it out in 3 ways. 1, through the kidneys by way of urine. Urea dissolved in water is urine. 2, by way of our lungs. The water vapor comes out. Along with carbon dioxide, it gets thrown out of the body. Point number 3, by way of our skin. We perspire. The moment you do a lot of activity, you start perspiring. Even on a hot day, you may perspire. Because body tries to cool itself and you start perspiring. It throws out water. As the water evaporates, the body temperature comes down. That's one way of controlling the body temperature. This lady, after doing a lot of exercise, her body temperature tends to pick up. It has to be brought down. How does the body bring it down? It starts sweating. Water vapor comes out. It starts evaporating. As it evaporates, body gets cooled down. So usually sportsmen and women, they don't wipe out the sweat. They leave it like that. If you leave sweat like that, you feel it cool. Because sweat is meant for getting evaporated. It has to take out the heat of your body. So perspiration is a part of excretion. What do you mean by excretion? Throwing out the waste out of your body. In the case of human beings, there are 3 ways. Through kidneys, through lungs, through skin. Urine through kidneys, water vapor through lungs, and sweat through skin. Now you have the fish here. You have an ornamental fish, a beautiful one with a lot of wings here, sails. It moves with the help of its wings, the sails. It pushes itself forward. There's one more reason, in case any enemy tries to come and catch the fish. These ornamental parts, they get caught and fish will be able to save itself. Just like lizard. Lizard has a long tail. When some cat or some other carnivore comes and tries to catch a lizard, its tail gets cut off. Suddenly, immediately tail gets cut, and that will be making, that will be dancing there on the floor, and the attention of the animal is drawn that side, lizard escapes. Okay. The fish sails with its fins. Here they are colorful ornamental fins. Then you have the tomato seedlings. This experiment you can do. You can take any of the seedlings, put it in a small bowl with soil, keep watering it, keep it in the window and watch it for a few days. All the seedlings will start growing in the direction of the sun, a clear indication that they all respond to the stimulus. What is the stimulus? Sunlight is the stimulus. What is the response? The growth of the plants towards the sun is the response. So tomato seedlings growing towards sunlight. Here a lizard is about to catch an insect. Now this is a lizard, you can call it chameleon. Chameleon, it is catching an insect. So all animals do need food. You can remain hungry for a day or 2 or a week, Beyond that, you need food. Without food, you don't get energy. All animals, living beings reproduce, and every organism has a definite lifespan. Here, this tree is slowly getting dried up. Its lifespan is getting over. It is turning dead. So, definite lifespan, it's fixed. Within a certain range, it dies. So these are the various characteristics of living beings, and with the help of these characteristics we make a differentiation between living beings and non-living beings. When a person turns dead, all these different characteristics come to a close. In the case of animals, their death is almost sudden. It takes place within a short span of time, say half a minute or 1 minute or maybe 5 minutes or half an hour. He may struggle. You make out, yes, this man is not going to survive. But in the case of plants, their death is usually very, very slow. Sometimes you see some old tree dying over a span of 5 years. One by one the twigs start dying. You try all your best to revive it, but it doesn't get revived, and over 3, 4, 5 years it may die. In plants, usually the death is very, very slow. Part by part, a plant starts dying. So these are the various characteristics of living beings which make us differentiate between the living world and the non-living world. Thank you, children.